Okay, yesterday we talked about Donald Trump rescinding DACA. And it was so funny. Yesterday I was teaching the class that I teach as adjunct faculty at Boston College, and we were evaluating the strength of arguments. And we had a hypothetical argument which said, since Donald Trump wants to get rid of DACA, he doesn't care about the future of immigrant children. And of course, that's not a really strong argument. It's possible that Donald Trump doesn't realize that scrapping DACA would hurt immigrant children. This was a hypothetical that we talked about in class. And yet, according to a new report, it appears Donald Trump truly didn't realize what would happen if he rescinded DACA, which he said he would yesterday. According to the New York Times, as this entire thing was developing, Trump administration officials were worried that Donald Trump didn't realize what would happen if he rescinded DACA. To put it another way, Donald Trump made a major decision about policy without understanding what it meant or the implications. Here's a quote from the New York Times yesterday. The blame-averse president told a confidant over the past few days that he realized that he had gotten himself into a politically untenable position. As late as 1 hour before the decision was to be announced, administration officials privately expressed concern that Mr. Trump might not fully grasp the details of the steps he was about to take, and when he discovered their full impact would change his mind, according to a person familiar with their thinking who was not authorized to comment on it and spoke on the condition of anonymity. But ultimately, the president followed through on his campaign pledge at the urging of Jeff Sessions and other hardline members in his White House, including Stephen Miller, his top domestic advisor. Is anyone shocked? And some people say he's been talking about DACA since the campaign, so clearly he understands it. Trump's been talking about healthcare since the beginning of his campaign. We found out a couple months ago he didn't seem to know the difference between life insurance and health insurance. This is not at all shocking, if true, that Trump had no idea what would happen if he rescinded DACA.
You know, yesterday we were wondering why Jeff Sessions went out there to make the announcement, and the White House press secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, said that it was because of a legal matter, and they didn't really think it was constitutional, so that's why they sent Sessions out there.
Oh, yeah.
We were thinking maybe it was just Trump being cowardly and wanted Sessions to be thrown under the bus to take the political hit.
Yeah.
But now it just seems as if Trump just didn't know what he was talking about, and even though, you know, you'd be reading off a piece of paper or a teleprompter, he couldn't even BS his way through that.
He also might have not thought of it as a big enough deal to go out there himself. He's like, we're just rescinding DACA. I mean, this doesn't really change anything for anybody, so we'll just send Jeff Sessions out there. It's also funny from that quote that there were advisors who were thinking, if we can get Trump to understand this, then he'll change his mind. That is not how Donald Trump makes decisions. Any advisor who still thinks if we just explain it better to Donald Trump, then he'll change his mind, you've not been paying attention for the last 7+ months of Donald Trump's administration. Silver lining, it appears Trump didn't go with the last piece of advice someone whispered into his ear. That's the only silver lining I can possibly find. It seems like he's stuck with something despite the most recent influence attempts that he might have received from his advisors. If you were brought to the U.S. as a kid, it's wrong to deport you since you did nothing wrong. You were brought by your parents. That's the big picture. Sometimes to understand an issue, you've got to go into the details. Sometimes to understand an issue, you've got to go to the big picture. Here, it's the big picture, and this is an absolute and total disaster.
Just knowing the mindset of Stephen Miller and Jeff Sessions, it's no surprise that they would be pushing for something like this. Of course. And that's why it's unfortunate that Donald Trump is so easily convinced by these people. You know, in a leadership position, you have to be able to listen to a bunch of different perspectives and choose the best one.
Yes.
Not just whoever's the last in the room.
I think President Obama, for all of his faults, he was able to do that, which is to soberly take advice from dissenting individuals in some cases and formulate on his own what really makes sense.
You can't delegate out every responsibility. You have to know the policy by yourself.
That's right. DavidPakman.com/Reddit. Discuss this and any other issues from today's show with us. Today's program is made possible in part by Gamefly, which is sort of like Netflix for video games. They've got over 8,000 new and classic games for Xbox One, Xbox 360, PS4, PS3, Wii, and a bunch of other platforms. And you can also stream games. You don't even need a gaming console or a computer because you can stream games through your Amazon Fire Stick or Roku box and then use your mobile phone as the controller. You can play as many games as you want for one monthly fee. And if you find some games you want to keep, you can buy them for a low used price, never with due dates or late fees. And our audience can get a 30-day free trial at gameflyoffer.com/TDPS. The games are shipped directly to you with return envelopes included, no contracts, and you can also stream the games. I think I mentioned that. You can also rent games through the mobile app. Get a free 30-day trial for David Pakman Show viewers and listeners, and support our show at gameflyoffer.com/TDPS.